Hi everyone. For today's video, we're going to talk about color matching, and I'll present to you a color matching exercise so that you can be better at matching the colors you're trying to replicate in nature or in your photo reference or whatever it may be in your oil painting. So it's kind of simple, and this is stuff I learned throughout art school and study on my own, and so I'm just acting as a portal and passing it on to you. There are essentially 5 major questions that you want to ask that will give you pretty accurate color matching. Just about perfect. Our goal is to match as accurately as we can. We'll shoot for 100%, but if you match at about 95% accuracy, this subtle inaccuracy can create a visually more interesting nuance to a passage in your painting. For the sake of skill, though, it's certainly better to have the ability to mix 100% and develop your eye and hand sensitivity. So before you, I have my full palette. For, I don't know, maybe 25 years, I've been using a split primary palette, 2 yellows, an orange, which is a secondary. It's a comfort color. You don't need this. 2 reds, warm and a cool. Dioxazine purple, which is another secondary color that I certainly do not need. I can mix it for using red and blue. And then I have 2 blues, ultramarine blue and cerulean blue. And these greens and this burnt sienna are comfort colors. But essentially, all you really need for this exercise, or to match any color in the world, theoretically, is to have a split primary palette. 2 yellows, 2 reds, and 2 blues. A warm and a cool version of each. And on my palette, I always set out the warm version first. In this case, I have cad yellow medium, yellow ochre, cad red medium, alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue, and cerulean blue. And of course I have white. Okay, so this is the color we're going to try to match today. And inside of this paper, I have written down the secret recipe that reveals the recipe that I use to make up this color. I love this exercise, and usually when I give it to a classroom of students of 10 or more, typically out of the 10 or more students, we will have 7 or 8 different recipes to arrive at the same color. So it's a profound eureka moment at the end of this. And so let's go through the 5 questions that you can ask to mix perfect color every time. Let's do this exercise together in an attempt to match this color. And in the end, I will reveal the recipe that I used, and I will write down the colors that we're going to attempt to mix today. And that's what I would like you to do in your assignment as well. I'll provide you with a color swatch, and I'd like you to match that color swatch and write down the recipes. Okay, question number 1. And the great thing about these questions is the answers are multiple choice. And those multiple choices are typically, the potential answer is 3 or less potential answers. Question number 1. Which one of the 3 primaries, red, yellow, or blue, is the color I am trying to match most like? So is this color here closer to red, yellow, or blue? Well, to me, it's clearly the red. So that moves us on to question number 2. So now I know I'm in here, right? So question number 2, is it the warm version or the cool version of that particular primary? Well, we know the color we're trying to match is red, and there's only 2 reds to choose from, a warm, cad red medium, or a cool, alizarin crimson. Now, even with this almost looks like alizarin crimson right from the tube. So after question number 2, I already have a blob of paint. And so I'm just going to put a blob of alizarin crimson right there in an attempt to match our color. Okay. Question number 3. Is the chosen primary lighter or darker than the color you are trying to match? Well, in this case, if you squint your eyes, or I tell you, we can do one better. We can actually hold it up there, and you can see that alizarin crimson is darker than the color we're trying to match. Now, if you've done your color charts, you know that if you want to get a lighter version of the color from the tube, you simply add white. So we can just add a little white to this and bring that alizarin crimson up to the same value, or at least higher in value. So I'll add some white, and we'll try to match that value. And I have my value scale down here, and that's probably that's actually probably too light. I think I have to add more alizarin crimson. Let's add a little more alizarin. We'll try to match that value. And so if you hold your palette knife up with the color you're trying to match next to it, squint your eyes, or you can look through a ruby beholder. For example, this is a ruby beholder, right? And ruby beholders, they lie with reds, but even there you can see that the palette knife color is still just a little bit lighter. So I'll just add a little more alizarin, but it's close. Alizarin is a value 2 on the value scale. All right, so that's the approximate value. Okay, question number 3. Which one of the question 4 rather? Which one of the remaining 2 primaries must you add to arrive closer to the color you are matching? So the good thing is it's multiple choice. I've already added red. Which one of the remaining 2 primaries, yellow or blue, do I have to add to this color to make it closer to that? Well, I happen to know that one of the principles of color mixing is that if you add a color's opposite, it makes it duller. This certainly looks like a duller version than alizarin crimson, doesn't it? So the opposite of red is green, but we're talking about primaries here. I could certainly make a green by mixing red and blue, so the answer could be a little bit of both, right? And ultimately, honestly, the big eureka moment at the end of this is discovering that all colors are essentially mixed by ratios of red, yellow, and blue. But okay, so I would say that alizarin crimson, which is very close to purple, the opposite of that on the color wheel is yellow. So I think if I add a little yellow to this, I think it'll bring it closer. My choice is yellow or blue. Some of you might argue, no, looks blue. You know, the more I look at it, it does have a dull blue look to it. Let me, I'll add a little ultramarine blue. And that looks like it definitely got too dark. I'll add a little more white. That's pretty good. That's getting there, isn't it? So right now we've got alizarin crimson, white, and ultramarine blue. It looks pretty good, right? But it's still too chromatic. So let's take a moment and write down our formula so far so we don't forget what we're doing. So far we have alizarin crimson, white, and ultramarine blue. So we just want to test our accuracy, okay? So we're not there yet, are we? The value looks on. If you squint your eyes, it's getting there. But we are definitely too chromatic and too dark. Let me add a little more white to dull that down. White, it cools things, right? And this certainly looks cooler and duller. Something tells me if I add a little yellow, let me add a little yellow ochre, because alizarin crimson is very close to purple. Wouldn't you agree? And the opposite of purple on the color wheel is yellow. Add more yellow ochre. Yellow ochre is not a stainer. It takes a lot to sort of influence the color, particularly something like alizarin crimson that is a stainer. Okay, wow, that's still very, very chromatic when compared to the duller version. So we really need to dull this color down. But let's keep track. We've now used yellow ochre. Okay. Let's see. We're adding a little more ultramarine blue. Touching a lot of paint today, right? A little more white. Now it's about ratios, I believe. Oh, that's pretty good. That's looking good. That's promising right there, isn't it? Oh, yeah, that looks excellent, actually. It's a little bluer. But look that's pretty good. That is excellent. I think a touch of white, maybe. Just another touch of white, and I think we're pretty good. Okay. I feel like we're closing in on this thing. A little more white, a little more ochre, and I'm guessing we are right on. That's pretty good. I think we have the formula, and now it's really just a matter of the ratios of these particular colors. Alizarin crimson, white, ultramarine blue, and yellow ochre. Essentially red, yellow, and blue, and a little white. Almost there. So usually students do really well when they battle with this. And then something happens when they're making paintings. They sort of abandon this struggle. And this gets easier and easier the more you make, the more paintings you make. So I'm just going around and around and around and just adding the same colors, but just changing the ratios. Yes, that looks good. All right, I feel like we're getting really close. Yeah, I think that's it. That looks pretty good. That's pretty good. I'm going to actually, so we'll take some of this and we'll wipe it right on top of it. And that to me is, that's at least 98, 99%, something like that. I don't know. That's pretty good. We have a match. Maybe like 95 to 98%. I don't know, something like that. Okay. Now let's have our big reveal, shall we? So, to match this color, we've used alizarin crimson, white, ultramarine blue, and yellow ochre. And the big reveal. This color is cad red medium, cerulean blue, and white. And again, it's all about ratios. So what have we learned? We've learned that there are many different roads that lead to the same place. And as I said before, if we had 10 students trying to mix the same color, and if let's say you had 10 or 12 students, you're going to find that you would have, I don't know, eight recipes or something like that. The ratio is always very high. The other thing I'll add about color mixing, just a few tips, is if you are mixing a color, I have my value scale down here. If you're mixing a color that is a value, a light family value, that is a value 6, 7, 8, or 9, you want to start with white first and mix color into the white rather than the opposite. So if you start with a color, then mix white into it, you tend to use a lot of paint trying to make that color lighter and lighter. So if you're mixing light value colors, just start with white. Boom. And if your pile is getting too big, if your paint is just building up and up and up and up, then you'll see it actually is, it takes more paint to influence the color if you're trying to match a particular color. So if your pile's getting too big, just cut the pile in half and then try to influence that smaller pile with color in an attempt to get to the color you're trying to mix accurately. So there you go. Great. So for our assignment, I will put up 3 swatches of color. And now I know all different computers, if you're looking at this on your computer screen, colors can have different calibrations on your computer. But we're just doing the best we can and trying to match the color that's on your screen. Thank you.